9. The man with the world's most bulbous nose. Patrick, a retired crane operator from Montana, suffered from the unsightly effects of rhinophema, a progressive skin condition that causes scar-like tissue to grow on the nose. It started while he was working in Las Vegas under the harsh desert sun. He applied sunscreen, but it didn't really help, and Patrick's nose grew increasingly red and irritated. It also just grew, eventually reaching double its original size. The weight of the growth began making it difficult to breathe, prompting Patrick to reach out to Dr. Sandra Lee, better known by the name of her hit show, Dr. Pimple Popper. Have you seen her show? Anyways, sadly by then, his grandchildren had become scared of him because of his nose. He said he wanted the roughness removed and to look presentable again. Dr. Lee called it the most advanced case of rhinophema she'd ever seen, but she was determined to help Patrick get his life back. Using an electric cauterizer, she burned away years' worth of excess skin. It was the first of at least 2 procedures he needed, and its purpose was to reduce the swelling in Patrick's nose. The next time he went in, Dr. Lee scraped more of the skin away. By then, he was already looking like a brand new person. It's probably safe to say that Patrick's grandchildren no longer feared him from that day going forward. 8. Flesh-eating facial ulcers. Have you ever had an ulcer? A few months ago, 19-year-old Kirsten Cowell noticed that painful boils were appearing on her face. Assuming they'd go away on their own, the British teenager carried on with life as usual. But the open sores got even worse, barreling as much as 0.8 inches deep into her flesh. They seep pus and are covered in dark scabs, and only seem to be getting worse. Kirsten and her mother Allison believe she suffers from a condition called pyoderma gangrenosum, which covers the body in large open sores, causing skin and tissue to rot. It's gotten so bad she won't leave her house. She can't anyway, because the sun agitates her wounds. She's in constant extreme pain and can only eat foods that don't require chewing because it hurts too much to move her muscles. The teen felt she had no other choice than to end her relationship and move back in with her mother, where she revolves her life around managing the condition. Doctors are treating Kirsten with antibiotics and steroids. Last month, they removed 18 of her scabs and cleaned her wounds. Her bandages are changed once daily, and she has to wrap her head in puppy pads so that pus doesn't get everywhere. Even worse than the physical pain is the hit to Kirsten's confidence that the flesh-eating condition has taken. She and her mother are hoping that the current treatment works so that she can feel beautiful again and resume her normal life. 7. Turning into a SMURF. One day in 2008, an elderly man with blue skin appeared on the Today Show. His name was Paul Carrison, and you could almost mistake him for being a SMURF. He had started turning blue years earlier after trying to treat a host of medical ailments by rubbing a solution of colloidal silver all over his face. Carrison believed that the substance cured acid reflux and arthritis. He soon learned otherwise when, in 1993, his once freckled, fair-colored skin acquired a bluish tinge. It's a symptom of a condition called argyria, which is caused by excessive exposure to chemical compounds of the element silver. Once a person turns blue for this reason, there's no undoing it. The condition is permanent. During his Today Show appearance in 2008, Carrison said that he was still drinking the dangerous substance. And this is a good example of why the government banned colloidal silver in 1999. It has a tendency to collect in the organs and cause serious damage. Harrison's unique hue turned him into somewhat of a recluse in 2007. He relocated to California from Washington seeking greater community acceptance, but his luck continued to worsen. And in 2012, Harrison lost his home while battling prostate cancer and a heart ailment. He ultimately ended up at a homeless shelter and then died of a heart attack in 2013. 6. COVID toe. COVID-19 comes with an array of bizarre and painful possible symptoms. In recent weeks, people have become curious about something called COVID toe, after Aaron Rodgers, the quarterback for the Green Bay Packers, said that he was experiencing it. The condition is caused by the body's immune response to the coronavirus. It turns the toes and sometimes the fingers purple, blue, or red. Cases of COVID toe appeared pretty early in the pandemic. The bizarre side effect isn't seen as often as some other symptoms, but it can last for months. Sometimes discoloration of the skin is the only symptom. In fact, many people don't even realize they have it until they look at their feet. But the condition can also be itchy and painful, and sometimes blisters develop, with pus pooling underneath the skin. Dermatologist Dr. Amy Pollard told NBC Sports that experts think COVID toe may be a response to inflammation. Prolonged cases seem more common among patients battling long-haul COVID, according to an analysis which noted that one person reported experiencing COVID toe for 6 months. On average, however, symptoms last for 12 days. Did you get COVID? What was the worst symptom you experienced? Let us know in the comments below, and if you're liking this video, be sure to hit the thumbs up and subscribe buttons if you haven't already. 5. Pandemic-related psoriasis. 26-year-old Poppy Challenor has been battling psoriasis since she was 13 years old. When England went into lockdown at the beginning of the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, her condition worsened noticeably. Psoriasis is an incurable autoimmune disorder that causes skin to become itchy, red, and sore, and to flake and bleed. Challenor began posting brutally honest photos of her flare-ups on social media to raise awareness about the condition and to remind young people that it's important to learn to live comfortably in their own skin. She named the account after her high school nickname, the Girl with Psoriasis, and recounted a time when someone described her skin as weird. Speaking with the Mirror, she described how her classmates got to know who she was based on psoriasis alone, rather than her other attributes or her personality. Shortly after she first noticed the symptoms, the rash spread all over her body. Nothing that the dermatologist prescribed helped, leaving Challenor itching and scratching all night long. Not wanting to appear different, she covered up the psoriasis as best she could by wearing long sleeves, even in the summer. At age 16, she told a boy she was interested in about the condition. He stopped talking to her because he was afraid it would affect him. But as Poppy blossomed into adulthood, she began to look at her psoriasis differently. She sees no reason to hide it. Challenor's flare-ups are often brought on by stress, leaving her skin flaky and raw. After losing her father to an industrial accident 2 years ago, she sank into a depression and exacerbated the condition by scratching constantly. But she finally got help when her doctor said that the psoriasis had spread too far. Psoriasis affects people differently. It's incurable but can usually be managed. Still, it's extremely uncomfortable to live with and can cause deep emotional wounds, as you've seen with Poppy's case. 4. Morgellons disease. Some experts believe that Morgellons disease is a skin condition. Others think it's a mental disorder. But pretty much all of them agree on one thing: it's a total medical mystery. Common symptoms include the sensation that something is crawling on, stinging, or biting the skin. Sufferers also often report small fibers protruding from their skin, as well as mood, memory, and concentration problems. Canadian singer-songwriter Joni Mitchell has made headlines numerous times in recent decades for her alleged battle with the controversial disease. She claimed that when her Morgellons was at its worst, she couldn't leave her house or even wear clothing. Her legs cramped up, forcing her to crawl across the floor. Mitchell believed that different colored fibers stuck out of her skin, and that they cannot be forensically identified as animal, vegetable, or mineral. Those who suffer from Morgellons disease will insist that it's not all in their head, and that their symptoms are physically debilitating. But this condition is poorly understood by experts, despite having first been described in the 17th century. Modern medicine has failed to explain or treat it. In 2001, a mother named Mary Latayo reportedly examined samples scraped from her son's skin under a microscope. He had long struggled with the symptoms of Morgellons, and Mary was determined to find answers. She claimed to have found unexplained fiber-like strands while examining some of his skin scrapings under a microscope. Doctors remain dismissive while the fight to understand Morgellons disease continue. In 2005, the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, caved to mounting pressure to investigate the matter. Researchers took samples from 115 people claiming to suffer from Morgellons disease and found no parasites or bacteria that could be causing the disease. They concluded that it's simply a mass shared delusion, especially considered how many of the people who experience symptoms have histories of addiction and psychiatric ailments. Will scientists ever get to the bottom of what Morgellons disease is and what causes it? Only time will tell. 3. Deadly shedding. Epidermalic ichthyosis, EI, is a rare condition that causes the skin to grow and shed up to 10 times faster than normal. The skin becomes so dry, blistered, and scale-like that it often makes it hard for the patient to move at all. In 2017, news outlets around the world reported on Maddie Hoffman, a 9-year-old Texas girl with EI. Because of her reddened appearance, strangers often mistook her for a burn victim. Kids bullied her at school for both her appearance and her odor, which is caused by the condition. Maddie's daily routine involves spending 2 hours removing dead skin cells and taking measures to prevent a potentially fatal infection. When she was born, doctors told her mother, Emily, that Maddie may not survive. Emily had to wait a week to hold her baby for the first time in an isolation room, wearing a mask and gloves. The daily scrubbing ritual not only helped to keep Maddie alive, it seems to have slightly improved her condition. She has one of the most severe forms of ichthyosis, which requires hours of treatment daily, according to Emily. The longer Maddie goes without her daily care routine, the higher her chances are of catching a potentially deadly infection. Her discomfort also grows as she accumulates more scale-like skin. An estimated 1 in every 200,000 people is affected by epidermalic ichthyosis. Babies born with this condition are at an especially high risk of dying from an infection, making it imperative to put them straight into quarantine. 2. Life-threatening to the touch. Imagine having skin so fragile that it blistered and fell off just from being touched. That's a daily reality for people like 9-year-old Gabrielius Mirsorinkovas, who suffers from a rare genetic disorder called recessive dystrophic epidermolysis bullosa, RDEB. Immediately after he was born, doctors noticed that he had lost skin from his leg. He's one of just 100 so-called butterfly children in the UK, who are nicknamed for having skin as delicate as a butterfly's wing. Gabrielius's parents change his bandages at least 3 times a day and pop the dozens of blisters that form from coming into even slight contact with something. Yuck! He distracts himself from the pain by watching TV or playing video games. Watching Gabrielius endure the debilitating condition is heartbreaking to his mother, Polita, who told The Sun the only way to help him is to hurt him. He can't do most things that boys his age love to do, like play sports, ride a bike without training wheels, or even eat the school lunch food, because it's too hard. Sadly, there's no treatment for RDEB, which worsens with age and leaves many kids wheelchair-bound by the time they reach their teens. The damage to their skin that accumulates over the years often also leads to cancer. Researchers are working to develop an effective stem cell treatment that will hopefully lead to reduced inflammation and pain. So far, the results are promising. 1. Death by herpes. Death during pregnancy or childbirth is rare in first world countries, but it still occasionally happens. In May and July of 2018, 2 new mothers died from infections caused by the HSV-1 strain of the herpes simplex virus. HSV-1 is pretty common. It causes sores around the mouth and/or genitals, and it's extremely rare for someone to die from it. Kimberly Sampson and Samantha Mulcahy went to the same hospital, where they both had C-sections and were in excruciating pain afterward. In both cases, the women received antibiotics for suspected bacterial infections, but the treatment didn't work, and they both died from herpes infections that were discovered when it was too late to save their lives. Thankfully, their babies were not infected. But 1 death from herpes is rare, and 2 herpes-related deaths within a few months of each other is practically unheard of. Neither Kimberly nor Samantha had herpes before. Their lack of natural immunity, coupled with the late stages of pregnancy, unfortunately spelled disaster for both. Suspicious that the 2 deaths were somehow linked, the women's families implored the coroner to investigate the matter. But the coroner declined, claiming that there was no connection between the tragedies. The family obtained access to the investigation documents, which show that the parts of the virus that were tested were identical between both cases, reflecting a herpes strain that is rare among London's last decade of cases. Neither woman had any sores or skin symptoms, indicating that neither of them got it sexually or from skin-to-skin contact. Moreover, the same surgeon and midwife had carried out both women's C-sections. One email pointed towards surgical contamination as the cause of the herpes infections and called for a sample to be taken from the surgeon involved. Speaking with the BBC, sexual health expert Peter Greenhouse speculated that the surgeon unknowingly passed the virus onto the women. But the trail seems to end there for now, leaving Kimberly and Samantha's grieving loved ones without the closure they so desperately seek. Thanks for watching. Do you have any stories you think belong on this list? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you next time. Bye.